So today we're going to be working on 2.3.1, how can I make a useful graph? Choosing a scale and graphing data. So on this one here, it's important to know that what the focus for this lesson is that you can create an effective interval to be able to graph data. So that's really important to be able to do. So it says right here, graphs can be useful tools for finding relationships and making predictions. In this lesson, you're going to work with your team to make choices about how to set up a graph in the most useful way, depending upon its purpose. As you work, use the questions below to help focus your discussion. So it has right here, does our data fit? Can we see it clearly? How can we make it clearer? How can we make a prediction? And will a different choice make it easier to predict? So the first problem is 106, Peyton's bats. Peyton loves bats. She wants to know if she can predict the wingspan of a bat by knowing the length of its body. Peyton looked at the measurements for 5 bat species. So 5 species of bats. For each species, she found the typical body length from the head to the tail and the wingspan from the tip of one wing to the tip of the other. She organized the information in the table below. So right here we have the table where it's bats in Tennessee, typical body measurements. So she has those 5 types of bats and each of their body length in inches and also the wingspan right here. So for instance, for the big brown bat, its body length is 5 inches, and its wingspan is 14 inches. So the first part of this says, work with your team. So I'm looking right here. Work with your team to decide how Peyton can use the data in the table to predict the wingspan of a bat if she knows its body length. Explain how she would do this. Now, this is a big stumbling block over the years and also again this year. And so I try to use this opportunity to teach you how to use the textbook. Now, we're using this math textbook all the way up into high school as well. So when you're in 10th grade in high school, you're still going to be using CP/M. And so it's really important for me to make sure that you understand the different ways of being able to use it to your advantage. So if I was stuck on this part where I'm deciding how Peyton can use the data in the table to predict the wingspan of a bat, if I'm stuck on that, there's a couple of things that I can do. The first thing that I give you in perspective with CP/M is to look at the next problem. Oftentimes, the next problem will give you an answer or let you know what the answer was to the previous one. So that's a good strategy to get unstuck with. So it says right here on 107, it says Peyton has started a graph. So that would be one strategy that I could use if I was stuck. Another strategy that I could use, which is true for more than just our math book, it also would work in science or history or those kinds of things, is to pay attention to what our headings or titles are. So in this case, I'm not talking about the title of the graph itself, or excuse me, not the graph, of the chart or the table. I'm actually talking about the title of the lesson itself. So the question is, how can I make a useful graph? And then really the true title is choosing a scale and graphing data. So again, if I look at this part right here, coupled with what it says for 107, I really know my answer to 106, which is she can make a graph with that data. And so that's what we're going to do on our lesson right here. So it says right here, using the data in the table, Peyton can draw a graph to see if there is a relationship between a bat's body length, oops, and its wingspan. So again, we can use that to see, and there's a special name for that relationship, and we'll get more into that later on. This is kind of just to remind you how to do this. And again, I kind of explained it in class too, that one of the things that especially that I have heard from the high school LP in particular, that they really want students to be able to do by the time they reach them is to be able to graph. And so I take this lesson and some of the other lessons very seriously for that reason, to make sure that you're prepared for high school. So